Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my new subscribers. We got some new content coming up. We are going to do part 3, if you do not include Paolo's video, on exact trig values. This will be the last lesson on that. So we are now doing part 2 of lesson 7, which is the second worksheet you're going to be doing. So here is an example of a problem-solving type question with a non-calculator. We're working out the area of the square. I want you to try this question by yourself, and then I will go through it. Okay, now going through the question, you can see we've got a nice angle here, 60 degrees. We basically need to work out this length because it's a square, so I'm just going to need to multiply it by itself. You're going to need to square it. And to work that out, I need the opposite. So opposite length. And I already have the hypotenuse. So O and H, that told me I need to use sine. So sine 60, sine 60 is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. So I know that sine 60 is equal to opposite over 10. So essentially, I know that the opposite side is equal to 10 sine 60. Now we can replace sine 60 with its exact value, which is root 3 over 2. So then I get equals 10 root 3 over 2. Now 10 over 2 is just 5, so you get 5 root 3. That tells us this length here is 5 root 3. Now, because it's a square, this also has to be 5 root 3. So the area of a square, anybody? Yes, Tilly? No, that's the area of a circle. Pi r squared is the area of a circle. Tilly, you remember we did that a few lessons ago. Yeah, the second time you made the same mistake. It's base times height. So it's 5 root 3 times 5 root 3. And then 5 times 5 is 25. And then root 3 times root 3 is 3. So you get a nice number, 75. There's no units, so just units squared. I've typed this up for you here, just if you need to pause the video. And the next type of question you might get, some of this was kind of similar to worksheet 1. Show that 12 cos 30 take away 2 tan 60 can be written in the form of root k, where k is an integer. Well, cos 30 is root 3 over 2, tan 60 is root 3. You know those two things, so you're basically going to do 12 times root 3 over 2. Take away 2 times root 3. 12 over 2 is 6, so you get 6 root 3, take away 2 root 3. That gives you 4 root 3. Now, normally that would be the final answer, but in this case, it asks you to give the answer in the form of root k. So we need to simplify this. Well, in a way, we're kind of unsimplifying it to leave it just as 1/3. So 4 can be written as root 16. So going backwards here. So I'm going to replace that 4 with root 16. So you end up with root 16 root 3, which is 4 root 3. And when you multiply those two together, you get root 48. So that's your final answer in this case. And I've just typed this up for you here if you need to reference it. And now these are examples of actual exam questions. They're quite similar to the questions on worksheet 1. So you can have a look at this if you want to. You can pause this and try it, but you should have done these questions on the worksheet. And now we're going to do 2 different sets of questions here. I'm going to show you 2 examples, and then you're going to do a worksheet. So here's example 1. I need to work out the length BC. So you can see from the diagram, we've actually got 2 right angle triangles, and we've been given this ratio, tan x equals 2/3. We don't know what value of x that is, so it's not one of the exact values given to you. So we're going to use a bit of ratio here to work out length BC. Well, if you focus on just the triangle on the bottom, if that's angle x, which is labeled for us, we know that opposite is 4, and adjacent, which is what we're looking for, is, we'll just call it BC because that's how it's labeled. So we can say tan x, we know that tan is equal to opposite over adjacent, is equal to, in this case, opposite is 4, and adjacent, we'll just call that BC. But you're also told that tan x is equal to 2/3. So 2/3 is equal to 4 over BC. And then from that, you can obviously see, you just multiply everything by 2. So BC will be 6 centimeters. Question 2, or part 2, work out the length AP. So we now have that length BC is probably going to prove useful here. So we can say, we're looking at the big triangle now. We can say that the opposite is, in this case, we can use the angle at the top there. We know that's also equal to x. So we can say tan x equals opposite over adjacent. Now, the opposite in this case is going to be 6, which we've just worked out, and the adjacent, well, we don't know that length there, so we'll call it AB because it's labeled AB. We know that this applies as well. Tan x is 2 over 3, so 2 over 3 equals 6 over AB. Now, you can again just see, just multiply both sides by the numerator and denominator by 3 over 3. So we end up with AB is equal to 9. Now, this common mistake is students stop here because they think they've worked out the answer, but actually what we're looking for is just the top section of this length, AP. So we have to take away 4 because we know that that bit is 4 centimeters long. So 9 take away 4, you get 5 centimeters. Now, the second example is a bit harder. You need to be very careful with questions like this because this is now the point where the exam questions are going to actually look like this. You now have the basic skills to be able to do this. Find the value of x. So we have a right angled triangle. We don't know anything about opposite and we don't need to work out the opposite angle, so we can ignore that. We know the hypotenuse is 2 root 2 minus 1. Put that in brackets because you'll make silly mistakes if you don't. And you know that the adjacent is x. So bearing in mind we're using hypotenuse and adjacent, that's telling us that we're going to use cosine. So cos x equals adjacent, which is x, over, sorry, cos 45 equals adjacent over hypotenuse, which is 2 root 2 minus 1 in brackets. Now we can replace cos 45 with root 2 over 2. So then you end up with equivalent fractions and you can cross multiply. So root 2 over 2 is equal to x over 2 root 2 minus 1 in brackets. Now, so when I cross multiply, I get root 2 brackets 2 root 2 minus 1 is equal to 2x. We expand and simplify and we should get our answer. So root 2 times 2 root 2 becomes 4. Root 2 times negative 1 is take away root 2. And I know that's equal to 2x. So I then have to divide by 2, divide by 2. So then I get my final answer, which I might need to simplify. So I get, I'm just going to leave it as that. That is actually fine. If you want to split this into a fraction, you can just turn that into 2, take away root 2 over 2. But this is fine as your answer. Okay, so your second task today is to complete this worksheet, which I put on Google Classroom. You must do exercise 4. This worksheet here, the one that says harder further maths examples, you should all attempt. And you definitely need to attempt that if you want to try to aim for anything above a grade 7. Okay, smash that like button, hit subscribe, or not, whatever. I'm famous already.